What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. I'm very excited. We have a guest. She's joining us from Florida, Miami, Florida, at that. Her name is Regina Huber. She is the founder and CEO of Transform Your Performance. She's also a multicultural and multilingual transformational leadership coach. Regina, thank you for joining us today. Can you please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Yes, hi, Deanna. I am so happy and delighted to be here with you today. And I was really excited to meet you in person as well. I think we both have very interesting lives and lifestyles. And so I grew up in a tiny little village in Germany as the shyest kid in the village, probably.
Oh.
But I also had this very deep adventurous spirit inside of me and this insatiable curiosity for what's going on in the rest of the world. And so I ended up living in many different places, and the first one was my first big city, Munich, and from there I then moved to Spain, did a lot of work in Portugal. I lived in Brazil twice, in Argentina twice, in California. And I'm now based in New York City, although I'm currently spending some time in Miami, Florida. And all these different experiences have eventually come together into my current business and also my passion for dance. So I didn't grow up with dance in that little village, but I love dance, especially Latin American, Caribbean, and African dances, and studied a lot of holistic stuff on the side. So it's all come together into this very unique transformational approach.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about a little bit about what made you, what prompted you to move so much all over the place. Is it because of your work, or is it just because of your desire to move to different countries?
I would say it was always self-inspired and self-initiated, but I also chose a company when I first looked for my first job that was international with that intention in mind.
Yes. Oh, cool.
And because of my curiosity, it was sort of natural, a natural aspiration for me. And when I started out at that global consulting firm, my main reason to apply with them at the time was really to the perspective to potentially be able to move abroad. And I did it several times with them, but later on, I also owned my own businesses in both Argentina and Brazil. So it wasn't always with a job that I moved. Sometimes I just moved with a dream. And I left everything behind and I just packed up and here we go again, next destination.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I envy that. So like before we start recording. So how do you feel that's translated in the work that you do now? I know that we talked about this before we started. So can you tell us that again?
Yes, absolutely. So I, as I said before, I grew up in a tiny little village, and I didn't really know what I was looking for, and I didn't know what my opportunities or my possibilities were. To be frank. So I was extremely shy. I would never have thought that I would become a speaker one day, but this insatiable curiosity and this adventurous spirit inside of me had me move. And of course, first of all, I moved to Munich, my first big city, and from there to the other countries, Spain, Portugal, Brazil, Argentina. And in the last few years, I have been traveling quite a bit on the African continent as well. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So, well, I mean, so you had said something about this. I don't remember exactly what you said, but how being on all these different countries has allowed you to have a better approach to what you do as a transformational coach, because you have experienced so many different cultures. And I think that that's really key to what you do, because you have that experience, you have that wisdom dealing with different cultures.
Yes, absolutely. I had to start over in every single new location, and as such, we have to, in that situation, we have to adapt. We have to adapt to in a certain way, but it's also important to not lose ourselves in the process. So we do not want to
Yeah.
become a completely different person, but we of course merge these different experiences together, and we develop greater understanding for other people's ways of thinking, ways of living, ways of expressing themselves, which, by the way, is also a very interesting piece of dance, right? Because everybody expresses themselves
Sure.
differently to possibly even the same music. And I also learned through this process about different cultures, different types of music, different types of dances, which was personally very enriching, and to open up my mind to how other people perceive the world, I would say. And this is
Sure.
a very, very important piece of coaching, because if you cannot understand where the person is coming from, then it's really hard to help them. And I really always wanted to work with people all over the world, which I have done.
That's amazing. That's so very cool, and just your reach is so wide because you have been to all these places. Now I know that we start when before we started recording, I had asked you about how long you've done it, and it's been an evolution for you. But you've done it. I believe you said you incorporated in 2012, but for the last 5 years, you've kind of really like evolved into the transformational coach that you are now.
Yes, everything is an evolutionary process, and all my previous eclectic experience somehow flows into this current coaching practice. When I moved from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, to New York, I had just gone through an extremely painful experience with a fraudulent business partner, which, meant
Oh,
I had to close down a business in which I had invested 2 entire years of my life, all the money I'd ever made. In that process, I didn't only lose that business, but also my self-esteem. So I had to really rebuild everything from scratch. And gladly, I had my holistic studies, and I learned to do that. When I arrived in New York, I wasn't quite sure what to do with all of this experience. But then, of course,
sure.
I saw that there was a need, and especially also with women, to increase our confidence, our self-esteem, and to really show up as the powerful beings we are. Yes, and to
Yeah.
realize the tremendous power we have inside of us and the tremendous gifts and brilliance. And that's how it all came together over time. Of course, it took a little bit, but eventually I came up with this signature framework of mine, which I call the Powerful Leadership Transformation, or PLT, and where we talk about a self-empowering mindset and heart set, about our distinctive uniqueness or unique brilliance, if you will, and a body and energy conscious presence, which then leads to
Sure.
inspired and effective action.
I love it. I love it. I'm all about that. I'm all about like that powerful. And you even say here you're about the freedom to speak up, stand out, and shine. So can you talk to us a little bit about your signature thing that you've created for your PLT and how that plays a big part into what you coach?
Yes, absolutely. I like to say everything I do is in the service of freedom. Yes. It's also about the freedom to express our passions, our purpose, what we came here for, which we are not taught in school, really. We are usually educated out of our brilliance because we are meant to fit and fold into this box that they prepared for us. They thought out for us, but that's not really
Program.
powerful. Exactly. It's not really powerful. It doesn't serve us, it serves the system somehow. Yes.
Yeah.
But then at the end of our lives, what can we look back on? So we really need to unlearn this limitation that we're educated into and relearn to dream and to feel this freedom of uh, developing this deep urge, or really using this deep urge that comes through our passion, and that is really the wind and the wave of our distinctive uniqueness. We are all unique for a reason. We are just as unique as a wave, I like to say. And so the passion is this wind and the wave. And how does that relate to speak up, stand out, and shine? Well, we can only truly shine with our inner brilliance, with our unique brilliance. I call this in my work distinctive uniqueness, as I said earlier. And we also need to find the courage and the confidence to speak up and to show it to the world, because the talents and gifts we have don't have a lot of value if we cannot show them and use them. Yes.
This is so true, and so for me, I've always been a pretty confident person, but even though I've been confident, I have not always spoken out. And if I did speak out, it wasn't in a very productive way. You know what I mean? You get frustrated as a woman, and then you just like kind of like react. So, but now I no longer react, and I've learned to use my voice in a way that is powerful and effective. This is why I have my podcast,
Right.
like what you're talking about. I really believe we are supposed to be programmed from the time that we are born to fit into this box, to behave, to follow, do this, do that. And even though I'm talking to so many brilliant, dynamic people like yourself, I feel like we are still such a small percentage of the people that are out there that really haven't tapped into that personal power. And that's why the work that you do is so important.
Yes, thank you. What's also really key is to realize that this courage that we all need, we can find this courage in our hearts. More and more people are talking about the heart nowadays, and I call it heart set. So mindset and heart set. Because I believe
Yes.
that if we do not focus on the intelligence of our hearts and don't know how to access it and tap into it, we actually really miss out on at least 50% of our intelligence, because our heart perceives independently of our mind or of our cranial brain. Yes, it's part of our brain,
Yeah.
but it perceives independently. And we need to harness this tremendous intelligence. There's so much we
Yeah.
can get from our heart: inspiration, courage, intuition. We always think of the third eye
Yes.
when we think about intuition, but our heart is where it's actually most easily accessible, according to my experience.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's just beautiful. Before we get further, I'm gonna ask some of these questions that you have here. Where can anybody in the audience that's listening that wants to reach out to Regina and likes her style of coaching, where can they find you?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So my website is transformyourperformance.com. My LinkedIn is Regina Huber, Huber. And I also have my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, on Amazon as Kindle and
Okay.
print. And that's pretty much it.
Cool.
I have a Facebook page as well, but I prefer LinkedIn, actually.
You know what? We all like different platforms. It's interesting, like what works more for different people. Um, so I like this one. You did mention dance a little bit, and I love to dance. Love to dance. I was a ballerina. I wake up in the morning. I turn my music on to get going. I'm like, woo! Just like get that blood flowing, and it's just that positivity. So one of your biggest passions is dance. How does this influence your work?
Well, dance has taught me a bunch of business lessons and leadership lessons. Lots and lots and lots of them. Yes. So it somehow seems unrelated to the work I do, but it is actually very much related. And it flows into all the
Yeah.
four pillars of my powerful leadership transformation. Some of the lessons it's taught me is, for example, courageous action. Yes, taking
Yeah.
risks. In dance, you have to express yourself. If you didn't grow up with that, it's risky to express yourself in a physical way, in an energetic way.
Yeah.
And also in partner dance, you sometimes take the risk to ask the best dancer on the dance floor to dance with you, if you want to dance with them. And sometimes you might get a no. But also after a while, you get more
Yeah.
yeses. And the same applies to business or to your career. And it's a lot about practice. It has taught me a lot about presence, business presence, speaking presence. It has completely changed my posture. And
Sure.
teamwork is another area that it has given me some great lessons. In a team, we have to be able to rely on each other. sometimes to an extent that our life depends on it, even, or our business success
Yeah.
depends on it. And when you do aerial work, for example, in a dance ensemble or in a dance partner relationship, that you really have to be able to rely on your partner, right?
Yeah. Big
Yeah.
time.
And then it has taught me, of course, nonverbal communication, picking up cues and signs in other people's nonverbal communication, responding to it, um, and diversity, the diversity of movements, interpreting
Oh,
music, the freedom of expression. So I could go on and on and on. I actually wrote a blog about it, so you can look it up on my website.
I
But
love it.
it's a lot.
I think I think it's so good for your
Yes.
soul. Like not only all those things that you mentioned that are important for business
Hmm.
and leadership, but it's just so good for your soul. So much, it's so good for your
Hmm.
joy. Like just to let yourself just feel that music and move with it. No matter like if you are a good dancer or not, it doesn't matter. Like as long as you're having fun and you're allowing yourself to vibrate with the music. I don't know. That's my thought. That's my thought.
Yes,
I like it.
absolutely.
You have here, tell us about your recent travels to Africa and what you did there.
Yes, in Africa. Well, the first time I went to Africa was many years back to Morocco, and it was just a vacation trip. But more recently, the first trip was to Ghana, and I worked with a group of women and I helped them prepare for job interviews. And then from there,
Oh,
I
wow.
traveled to South Africa to speak at a conference. I have been back to South Africa several times since then. So I've probably spent almost 5 months in South Africa, and mostly in Johannesburg, but also some other places. And also Cameroon. I co-hosted an event there with two other women for mainly entrepreneurs and startups and students in Yaoundé, Cameroon. The last trip I did to Africa was to both Uganda and Rwanda, where I spent a month in each location. In Uganda, I was connecting with a leadership institute. We did some trainings together. I inquired a little bit of, new opportunities possibly for the future. Of course,
Sure.
with what happened last year, everything got a little bit stuck. I'll have to resume it. In Rwanda, I was teaching a series of several workshops for a young group of, they have their own foundation and they educate students around ecological topics and environmental
Okay.
topics. So that
Wow.
was really exciting as well. And then, of course, I was supposed to go back last spring for many different speaking engagements to Kigali again, Rwanda, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria. I also actually did a training for Nigerian women in Sweden, though, and there's another one
Oh,
coming up
wow.
now for which is going to be organized by one of the women that was in that training. So yeah, it's been quite interesting. But last year, of course, everything was canceled or postponed. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're picking it up again.
You are fascinating, woman. You are fascinating. I love it. So, if somebody wants to hire you or reach out to you as help them with their transform them for their performance, what does that look like? Do they schedule a consultation with you? How does that work in your
Yes,
process?
if it's for one-on-one coaching, I would invite them to schedule a consultation. They can either go to my website, transformyourperformance.com, through the contact page, or they could contact me directly by emailing me to Regina at transformyourperformance.com, and we'll make sure to get them on my schedule, and we'll have a one-on-one conversation to see, whether it's a good fit, how it would apply to them, and whether we want to go forward. And then I'm also currently working on a new group program, and I'm not quite sure about the timeline yet. It should be out in the next few months. I have some travel coming up that's hopefully no longer canceled, so that's coming a little bit in between to the UAE, and it should be up soon. So these are my two main opportunities. I can also be hired for speaking, for organizations, for events, online and offline, of course. So that's what I do. I've been doing a lot of, and training sessions.
Excellent. I love it. I will put all of your links in the description of the episode. I think that you are incredibly amazing. I can't wait to see what you're going to do, because you are on fire. I think that that's just phenomenal.
Thank you.
With that being said, Regina, thank you so much, and I look forward to getting this out there to my audience. You guys, make sure that you go connect with Regina if you are looking for a transformational coach that's going to help you tap into that power and that performance and get that freedom of living your dreams, because I really think that she can help you get there. So this is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.
Thank you so much, Deanna.